If you've ever wanted to create cross-platform desktop applications with Vue, then this Electron Vue package is a great place to start. It allows us to use the Electron runtime to, of course, access native device features on desktop devices. It provides us the perfect starting point because this means we don't have to set up the variety of packages that come along with Vue, and of course we don't have to configure Electron and a testing environment and much more. So let's head over to the Electron Vue GitHub project. You'll see that the getting started guide here states that we need to run npm install vue CLI-g. This will of course install the Vue CLI globally on our machine. So of course you will need Node for this and npm. So providing you have them installed, we can then head over to our command line and of course run npm install -g vue CLI. The Vue CLI will then be accessible globally on our machine, and of course it will allow us to then create an Electron Vue project from that template. Once we have the CLI installed, that'll give us access to the Vue command, and then we can say vue init, which creates a new project, and the project can then have a template. We'll give it the simulated Greg, that's the user that's created this particular template, /Electron Vue, and that's the template name. And we'll call this my Electron Vue project. You of course can call it whatever you want, but I'm going to do that, hit enter, and what that will do is give us a variety of different options. For the most part, I'm going to stick with the defaults, so we'll hit enter through the vast majority of these. It's up to you whether you want to use Sass. I'm going to select yes. We'll have every one of these plugins, so just hit enter at this point. If you want to use ESLint, you can. For this demonstration, I'm going to hit no. We'll also not set up unit testing at the moment. And also we won't set up end-to-end testing. When it comes to the build tool, we have two different options. We can either use Electron Builder or Electron Packager. Electron Builder tends to be the better option. It's more supported, it has more commits, and overall it just seems to be the better package. However, you can use Electron Packager if you wish. Simply select with the arrow keys, but we'll be using Electron Builder, so let's hit enter. The author, you of course can just keep as yourself, and as you can see, the Vue CLI has generated our project. We can cd into my Electron Vue project, and at this moment we'll need to install the dependencies because while the template has been copied, the dependencies haven't. So if you've got yarn, you can run yarn, or alternatively you can run npm install. Now that our dependencies have finally installed, we can run code dot, and this will open up Visual Studio Code inside of this folder, and at the same time we can run npm run dev. And npm run dev will simply open up our Electron application inside of our machine. So here we are, we have our Visual Studio Code on one side and our Electron application here on the right. Most of the work will be done inside of the source folder. Notice that inside of the source folder we have two separate folders, one called main and one called renderer. If we look inside of main, we have two files, index.dev.js and index.js. These are related to the main process of Electron. If you'd like to know more about Electron and how the main and renderer processes work, the documentation has a great article called Electron Application Architecture, which goes into this in more detail. If we look inside of index.js, we can see we have this function called create window, and this simply creates a new browser window and loads our URL, that being our index.html, either on the file system or on localhost. And you can see we can tap into various events such as the application ready, the main window closed, and much more. If we take a look at the renderer folder, this is a standard Vue application. And if you've ever made a Vue app before, this should feel quite familiar. For example, we can go to app.vue, see our app component, look at a variety of others, such as landing page.vue, and so on. Let's look at creating a very basic to-do application with Vuex and Vue that can be run inside of this Electron runtime. So we'll first off start by going to the store, and within the store folder, we'll create a new file under store modules, and that'll be called ToDo.js. And this is simply a new module inside of Vuex. And we'll start off by determining the state. So the state of our to-dos will simply be a to-dos array that we'll define as an empty array. We can then define some actions. And at this point, it's a good idea to think about the variety of actions that your user might take when interacting with your app. When we think about a to-do application, the user might want to add a to-do. And from that, we want to destructure the commit. And we'll also have a name, and that's the parameter that the user will pass along. We can then commit the add to-do action with the name. This then gets picked up by our mutations. So let's look at some mutations. And if we said add to do once again, because we've committed add to do, this will then be matched with a mutation over here, which will contain the state and the name that we passed along. So this will be the name for the new to do. And we can set the new to dos equal to all of the previous to dos, and that's using the spread operator with the 3 dots. And we'll add a new to do with the ID of 1 and the name of name. Obviously, it's not very robust as each to do will have the ID of 1, but we will fix that very shortly. Finally, we can export a default object which contains the state, the actions, and the mutations. When we're looking to define new modules, we don't have to do any import work on our own because this has already been done by the index.js file. As you can see here, it imports all Vuex modules. And you'll also see that our application works once again now that we've exported our to-do module. Instead of creating a new component, let's simply use the landing page.vue inside of components, as the routing has already been set up for this. So what we'll do is simply delete everything, and we'll make a new template, a new script, and some surrounding styles. Inside of here, we'll make a new div with the class of container, and within that we'll have a div which contains our inputs. We'll give this the v-model of to-do item name, the placeholder of what are you doing today, and when we have the enter key selected inside of this box using @keyup.enter, and we'll want to prevent the default action on this, we want to run a function called add to do. So inside of our script, we can then export a default, and that will take some data as a function, which will return a new object called to-do item name, and that will simply just be an empty string. The methods that we'll be creating will of course be add to do, and this will go ahead and dispatch an add to do action to the store. So we can say this $store.dispatch. We want to dispatch add to do, and we want to pass along the to do item name. We can then reset this name to simply be an empty string. And inside of the style, if we give the .container class the height of 100 view height, we'll set everything to align to the center, and we'll set the background color to be a darkish blue. We can make a to-do input class, and we can set the font size on that to be 36 pixels, and we can add the class to our input. So let's set the class to do input. Perhaps set the width of this to 90 view width, the border to 0 pixels. We'll have no outline when selected. We can add about 20 pixels of padding from the top. Let's make that margin instead. With about 10 pixels of padding overall, that might look a bit better. We can align the text inside of here, center. Set the background color to transparent. And the color of the text to be white. As you can see, our placeholder though is still gray, so we will need to fix that. We can add the class ::placeholder to set the color equal to white. That might be too bright, it's up to you. We could set that in RGBA to be 245, 245, 245, and maybe put that to be 0.7. And as you can see, now it's a sort of placeholder. I also now want to go over to app.vue, and we can set the HTML and body to have a padding of 0 pixels and a margin of 0 pixels. That will get rid of the white border around everything. And if we add something in this box, so what are you doing today? And we say nothing, you can see that our item disappears because we no longer are having that option to be equal to nothing. But of course, we aren't displaying the item on screen. So let's go ahead back to our landing page.vue and do that inside of another div. Inside of here, we can have a div with the class of to-dos. This will contain our to-dos, which will simply be list items. And we'll iterate over a list of to-dos by saying to-do in to-dos. And the key for each element inside of these to-dos will simply be the to-do.id. And the text will be the to-do.name. So now we need to get that list of to-dos. That can be done with map state. So let's import from Vuex. We want to get map state. And as a computed property, we can use map state to set the to-dos, which will return the current state, equal to state.todo.todos. So as you can see, this returns our state, and we can simply hook into the to-do module, and inside of the to-do module, we have this to-dos. So let's set state equal to to-dos. So locally in this component, we'll now have access to to-dos. And whilst we now should have a project that works, i.e. we have a list of to-do items whenever we add something, this currently doesn't work because we haven't set up Vuex inside of our project. So let's go to source, main, index.js. And inside of here, underneath the import for app and browser window, let's simply import from renderer the store folder. And that will restart our application and import all of our Vuex modules. We can now say, what are you doing? And we'll say walk the dog. And we can see walk the dog appears here on screen. We can simply add a little bit of styling to this. So let's go and make a to-dos class. And inside of here, we can set overflow equal to scroll. That will simply just allow it to scroll up and down. We'll set the height to 70 view height. And we'll add some margin, maybe 10 pixels. We can also have a to-do item, and that will be each item inside of the to-do. Give that the class of to-do item. And we can set the font size to something like 24, the color to be white, and maybe some padding, like so. We can also get rid of this bullet point here. We can do this app wide if we don't want it throughout just this class. So we can head to app.vue and we'll set the UL to be list style none. There we go. So we can add items to the to-do list now. Get some food, go to the gym, and so on. But we have no way to, at the moment, remove items. So maybe we want to click items and they should disappear from the list. So we'll go back to ToDo.js and we'll add another action. That action will be complete to do. Once again, we'll destructure commit from this. And we want to complete based on the ID. That will once again just commit the complete to do action with the ID that we've selected. We can add the complete to do mutation, which will take the state and the ID. We can then take the to dos and run state.todos.filter. That will take it to do, and we want to filter it based on where the ID does not match the ID we've selected. So the state.todos will then become a new array which contains everything but the ID we've clicked on. Finally, let's head over to our landing page and we can simply add an @click event to complete to do and pass in the to do. Of course, once again, we'll have to go make that method. So let's do that by saying complete to do. And this can be the selected to do. And in here, we can say this.$store.dispatch complete to do and pass in the selected to do.id. Now you can take the ID inside of our HTML. You don't have to take the whole object if you don't want. But you may want to do other things in this method, which is why I've just took the object instead of the ID. Notice how our component is just calling this dispatch method, and this then add to do or complete to do goes off to our todo.js, which is the to do module. And inside of here, we are then mutating our state based on a particular action. Now we can do other things in this actions here if we want, but it just allows us to separate our logic out. So inside of our component, all we are simply doing is dispatching these actions based on user input. So if we save this, we can select an item and you'll notice that every single one of them disappear. And that's because they have the ID of 1. So no matter what I do, if I add anything in, all of them disappear. Let's fix that by installing a third-party library called UUID. I'm going to bring up the terminal inside of Visual Studio Code. And inside of our project, I'll install UUID. And this just allows us to generate a new unique identifier for each item inside of the to-do. Then inside of our to-dos module, we can simply import UUID from UUID/v4, and this gives us the UUID function, so make sure you use this as a function as the ID here, and then hit save. Now at this stage we can add other items such as go to the gym, go shopping, and walk the dog, and each one of these are unique. So if I click off go to the gym, I can then go shopping, and finally we can walk the dog. So there we have a quite basic Electron application that uses Vue and Vuex for state management. If we wanted to then build this project to, of course, be shipped somewhere, we can run npm run build. This packages and builds our application so that it can be run just as a standalone app on your machine. And as you can see right now on screen, we are using Electron Builder to do this. We can then head over to our file system, and inside of the build directory, we have a folder, at least on Mac here, that says Mac, and then we can select my Electron Vue project. And here we are, we have the project right in front of us, which we can then say, what are you doing today? Making a video about Electron Vue. Now that this video has been completed, we can take this off and I can do other things. So thanks a lot for watching. I hope you've got some information from this. I hope if you want to make an Electron app, you now can do that with Vue and Vuex. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay updated with more content. Hit the like button if you like this video, and of course leave me a comment letting me know what you're going to build with Electron and Vue. Thanks lots.